Welcome to Space World. Let's go.
You have no idea how badly I want to talk about this. Rayman Origins was released in 2011, and it marks the return of Rayman. And it's been considered to be one of the finest 2D platformers out there. Though despite the praise it got, it sold poorly when it released. 2011 was a big year for gaming. There were so many games released around that time. Now, I know Rayman Origins did gain recognition over time, and I know people have made videos for it, though it seems like you have to dig for it. And it probably doesn't get much attention because Rayman Legends pretty much overshadows it. Back then, I thought Origins meant a lot to me, especially when Rayman was going through rabid party games. The sequels has so little to do with Rayman that he might as well not be in them. And I grew up with these games too, and I was disappointed with them. In TV Party, he literally only appears in the cutscenes. He doesn't even appear in the cover. He has more screen time in the DS version than he does in the console version. And after that, Rayman pretty much disappeared in silence. Well, okay, he did later appear in a soccer/football game that nobody bought, and he can only be played as a goalie, but that's a story for another day. But yeah, Rayman was pretty much forgotten. I'm gonna bet when the devs looked back on the Rabbids sequels and realized what they did to Rayman, they probably thought oh crap, we gotta do something about this. And so they did, as they created a new engine called UbiArt Framework. Its purpose is to make it easier for artists and animators to create content in an interactive environment. There was a point where the engine was going to be open source, but that never happened. And years later, it was claimed that the engine was too difficult to use? What? Okay. So most of the games that use this engine is mostly Rayman and Just Dance, with a few one-offs here and there, like Valiant Hearts, The Great War, a Gravity Falls game, and Child of Light. Well anyways, the first game to use UbiArt was Rayman Origins, and Michel Ancel, back when he was cool, was gonna direct the game, which he hasn't worked on a Rayman game since Rayman 2. It was originally gonna be an episodic, but it was scrapped and turned into a full retail release. I still vaguely remember around 2010 when I was like so desperate for Rayman to come back. And then I saw a Rayman Origins trailer.
The one we call Rayman.
Dude, when I saw this for the first time, I was so happy. It's fun to look back on this trailer and see all the stuff I got cut out. And when I got this game for Christmas, it became my second favorite Rayman game in the entire series. I love this game just as much as I do with Rayman 1. Alright, I've been rambling on for a while. Let's talk about Rayman Origins. Our story begins with Rayman and the gang chilling out in the snoring tree. And if you look closely, there's a hidden mic next to Glowbox. This will become important later. This ended up disturbing the undead, and the old lady started throwing stuff and began an invasion. Well, we end up getting captured, but thankfully we can break out of his cage just by jumping, and also free the Bubble Dreamer. So it appears that the Bubble Dreamer has gone completely cuckoo because of the nightmares that's been unleashed to the world. Just look at him, he's very sick. In order to heal the Bubble Dreamer's mind and save the world, we need to save the Electoons. Our adventure starts at Gibberish Jungle, and right off the bat, this world looks absolutely stunning to look at. And we got some returning characters like Livingstones, the Hunters, the Antitoons, and even those mushrooms that stack on each other are here. And even Batilla is back. Oh shoot, I should probably save her. Jeez. So Batilla came back in the form of a nymph. I guess a lot can happen in 16 years? And apparently Batilla now has sisters that also needs to be saved, and they'll grant you new powers. Oh yeah, they also speak Pig Latin.
Ich brauche the Electoons way, it's a free. Agical me, ich brauche all the way Electoons way, ooh ye free.
You know what actually, what even are nymphs? Huh. Well, okay then. Out of curiosity, I wanted to look up the artist for this game. The art producer is Céline Tellier. I hope that's how you pronounce it. She's been doing arts and graphics for Rayman since Rayman 2, and she also did the same for a couple of other games like Prince of Persia and Rabbids Go Home. Well, that's pretty interesting. Whew, okay, where did we left off at? Oh, right, we can attack now. And we're able to pull off all sorts of moves. And Rayman still has his iconic charge punch, though there's not much reason to use it. But it does make a funny pan noise. I mostly use a spin attack to get a quick boost. You can also jump out of it and still retain that speed. It's just so fun to play around with Rayman's movement. Though it's too bad the enemies only die in one hit, then get bubble eyes. Like, you have all these moves, and there's only a few spots where you can actually combo enemies. But then again, you also die in one hit, unless you have a heart with you, so I guess that's fair. So most of every level has 6 Electoons to save, just like in the first game. 2 of them is hidden, and 1 is at the end of a level. The other 2 is for collecting enough lums. It's usually 300. Or if you want to go for an extra mile, you can try to get a ribbon. There's no reason to get these, but you do get to dance, and this teensy seems to be pleased. It's too bad you have to slowly wait for the numbers to go up. There's been a couple of times where I managed to reach a little over 400 lums. I couldn't help myself.
Smash.
And the last one is Time Trial, which is unlocked by beating the level. You can also win a trophy, but much like the ribbon, it's just for bragging rights. Around the end of each world, you'll see the nymphs using their powers to prevent nightmares from spreading. There actually is a Electoon requirement for these, but it's usually pretty low, so if you've been collecting them up to this point, you shouldn't really have to worry about backtracking. So now the Electoons can scare away the nightmares, and use them to cross to the other side. These sections are pretty cute, though they're very short, and honestly, I'm not really sure why these levels even have Electoons to save. After this, every world ends off with a mosquito level. Yep, our friend Bizit is back. These levels act like transportations to the next world, and Bizit now has some new moves. He can shoot, and suck up enemies and spin them out. Though the shooting part is actually not new to the series. This actually came from the Jaguar version of Rayman. Yep, they acknowledged the Jaguar version. That's crazy. Or, if you want the true traveling experience, you could play as Globox and get a tiny mosquito. Now, one of these levels do have a boss near the end of a level, but you can cheese them pretty easily, so we'll just move on. The next world is Desert of Didgeridoos. This world gives out a lot of Bandland vibes, though now you don't have to worry about falling off pits or do precise platforming. And this is where you unlock the power to fly. I really like this world because it's fun to play around with the instruments. So if I hold the sprint button on this piano, or on this string, or on this platform, it'll just make a bunch of noises. I especially think it's fun to do this on this flute, because I think it just fits perfectly with the music. This game does not fail to make me smile. Our next world is Gorman Land, an ice world full of fruits and soda pop, and with butler dragons, and dragons that can spit out unlimited fruit punch, and the music having a tropical vibe. This world reminds me of that one level in Tonic Trouble, which also has fruity platforms. Yeah, I didn't think you'd expect me to bring up a level from Tonic Trouble. The nymph in this world, who seems to be a lot of people's favorite, for some reason, gives you the power to shrink size, though this feels more like a stage mechanic rather than an actual power. Anyways, being small replaces your moves with a dash attack. You can also use it as a double jump. But that's not all. While the top side is an ice world, the bottom is a full kitchen to explore that's being run by dragon chefs. And you got corn that could be used as platforms, and it's got some deadly fork and knife traps. It's very charming, and I always have a blast revisiting it. Also, this pepper doing the Wilhelm scream. Nice. Our next stop is Sea of Serendipity. We finally get to do actual water levels. Well, the earlier levels did have water, you just couldn't go underwater. You've pretty much had an invisible floaty the whole time, and you control so smoothly in the water. It's not like other 2D platformers where you need to constantly press the jump button or slowly sink down. You just hold whatever direction and the run button, and you're smooth sailing. Though admittedly, apart from the top side, the underwater levels are kinda boring to look at, but it does got a neat dark level, where if you stay in the dark for too long, the nightmares will try to grab you. I do like the level Freaky Flippers, mainly because it has this one section that's very atmospheric. Ah, absolutely marvelous. Also, I just want to appreciate that there's one Electoon to save, where it's just do a ground pound, and just watch a bomb drop to the bottom.
Gotcha, didn't I?
And our next stop is Mystical Peak, another world with ice mechanics, and shows quite a bit of resemblance from Blue Mountains. And it's got quite a bit of machines and gadgets that's all frozen up, and your final power is to run up walls. And being able to run up walls is something I never thought I wanted in Rayman. I'm not sure if this is worth mentioning, but after getting the run power, you meet up with a tribe of glow boxes, and you do this little mini game to open the door, and you are able to beat them up, and I smack them into the door, and doing this actually kills them. I remember doing this as a teenager, and this cracked me up so much. Well, it's time we reach the final world, Moody Clouds, or at least we think we are. So, at the very top of the mountain, we meet up with your girlfriends. We can't enter this world just yet. There's 4 kings that we need to save for each world, and we need their magic to enter the Dreamer's Door. So now we have 4 extra worlds to do instead. And this is where my problem with the game starts. Because I feel like once you reach to this point into the game, I feel like you've pretty much experience everything the game has to offer. It's pretty much just do more levels, except now they're slightly harder. And these levels aren't bad. In fact, I do like some of them, but they don't really feel much different than their previous world, so it feels kind of repetitive. Like for the mosquito levels, I think they're great for traveling to the next world, but here I don't really care for them that much. Well, except for one in Luscious Lakes. You can see the dragon boss in the background, and then eat a whole city. Then he throws it up on your side, and you have to dodge all of it. Otherwise, the only differences I can find in these worlds is, in Ticklish Temples, there's more use of the powers, and they have caterpillar platforms. Grumbling Grottos has a light mechanic to avoid getting killed by those flies, and in Instinct Abyss, all I can think of is that it has this one cool looking area, and that's about it. Which kind of sucks, because I feel like the ocean world could really use some more levels, and I say this because each world gets smaller and smaller, with the jungle having the most levels. It seems that the level designers really likes the jungle, so much in fact that there's literally a whole game where you just play jungle levels. I don't know, I guess the pacing in these worlds could have been better. If the worlds from the beginning had like 5 levels, and had the extra 4 worlds have 3 with a boss, then it probably would make the pacing a bit better. Or at least try to make them look more unique than the earlier worlds. Like, I don't know, like maybe change the color palette or something. Well, anyways, as for the bosses, they're fine. They're nothing crazy, you just have to wait for their attack pattern and pop their bubble. They seem like they're difficult at first, but they're actually super easy. And I guess the reason for them for being easy is the game is designed for co-op. So if you have your friends playing, it'll probably be difficult to focus on the boss without trying to smack your friends. The one where you go inside the dragon's stomach is probably my favorite. Yeah, don't think about it too much. Next to the flower boss. And the other 2, I actually didn't really care about them too much. They're not bad, you just meet up with them and there wasn't very much build up to them. So once we have the 4 kings freed, now we can enter Moody Clouds. And unfortunately, this will be the last time we'll get to see our beloved nymphs. So long, ladies. I'm sure plenty of people on the internet will definitely draw you fan art. And I'm one of them. Well, now we finally have access to Moody Clouds, and the Magician's Hat has appeared once again. I don't think we've seen him since the second world. Instead of giving us tips, now he's telling us to stay away. It's too dangerous. Something's not right. So we have another mosquito level to do. We went from going through the stormy clouds to a machinery factory in the sky. This place is full of dangerous hazards. It's pretty easy to get crushed, and there is a lot of buzzsaws. There's also a robot enemy that actually picks up a fight, because you can't kill him normally. He can only be killed if you push him off to a hazard. And if you get caught by his laser, you're basically dead. Alright, I guess it's time to finish things off with the reveal. Well, once we enter this door and... Oh, hey, it's that teensy we always see at the end of a level. What's he doing here? Well, it turns out he's actually the main bad guy. And we fall right into his trap. Oh, spoilers, I guess. And now you gotta do rematches with just 2 bosses. The plant boss and the bird boss, but now in a robot form. And they're much easier this time. After that, we meet up back with that teensy. And he pulled off a distraction dance. Look at Rayman doing those sick moves. Then we go through this chase sequence with the factory completely falling apart. This part is just so cool. I love it. And the level ends off with one final mosquito level. Then you just gotta chase down their pirate ship until they accidentally ran into their giant power source. And we fell right back at the beginning of the game like nothing happened. But wait, we're not done yet, because we still haven't done the tricky treasure levels yet. So every world has a tricky treasure level, where you have to chase down this treasure at the end of a level. Some people like to consider this as the real bosses in the game. They throw out a lot of obstacles, so you gotta memorize these pretty well. But once you get it down, it's very satisfying to break that chest and get your skull tooth. And once you have all the skull tooths collected, we bring them all back to this Grim Reaper. Now he has a full jaw, and we can visit the final level in the game, Land of the Living Dead. Not to be confused with Land of the Living Dead and Land of the Living Dead. This is Origins' most challenging level. You'll go from riding a skeleton snake to running up gravestones, dodging fireballs. I love this level so much that I actually prefer to play it through one life. If I die even once, I'll reset to the beginning. I don't know, I just think it's more satisfying to go through it this way. And this level ends off with the final boss, Big Mama. And once you beat her, you free the last nymph, and the game just kinda ends. Yeah, this isn't a very story-focused game, which was an issue a lot of people have with the game. Now, it does have a story, it just doesn't tell you one. And there's not much to go off of other than some characters have a few bits of dialogue here and there. Even the manual doesn't help too much. It pretty much just explains everything from the beginning of the game. But we can check out the characters' descriptions, like they call Batilla a badass. This manual is base. And Rayman's description just explains why he wasn't born with limbs. It's pretty much what was shown from the first trailer, where Batilla created Rayman, which to be honest, I never really understood why people think Batilla is Rayman's mom. It seems to be a popular headcanon, but I don't really see Batilla as Rayman's mother. Well anyway, since we can't find anything in the manual, then all there is left to do is to go through the game's unused content. This game has a lot of unused dialogue, and one for Magician that pretty much explains the game's story. Heck, we even found an early script that was found in Just Dance 2016 of all things. Now, for Magician's script, it explains why he became a bad guy. Basically, he was mistreated in magic school, and he wanted revenge. So he hit a microphone that started the false war, and all those lumps you've been collecting was used to power up his machines. Yeah, it's a shame this dialogue didn't get used, but I think the fact that the microphone is still shown in the cutscene at least proves that the story is still there. But otherwise, I think the story is fine for what it is. I mean, I guess it could have been worse. I'm more of a gameplay over story kind of person. Like, I don't need a complex story to enjoy a game. I just want it to be fun. I love its gorgeous art style. Like, I find it hard to believe that this released in 2011. I know it's easy to point out how pretty the game is, but I used to play this game on the Wii, so going from Wii to PC is a pretty big leap. And it really makes me appreciate the love and care that was put into this game. And some of these levels have certain little things that you probably would have missed on the first playthrough. I also love how this game controls. The amount of movement options you have is just so fun to use. It's one of those gameplay styles that's almost hard to get bored of. And hey, why not play this with friends? You can play up to 4 players, and you can just beat the living hell out of your friends, and watch your character make the most stupid expressions, which makes me think we are long due for a 4-player let's play of this game. There's also the usual teamwork mechanics, like having other characters stand on top of each other, and I feel like no one has ever brought this up, but you can also grab players off of the vines and ledges. Like, there's no point in having this feature, but I'm glad they added it anyways, and you can get more costumes depending on how many Electoons you collected, with the Teensy having like the most skins. Unfortunately for Rayman and Glowbox, you're only getting 3. And I don't know why this happens, but when you beat the game, you're able to play as the same skins as the other players, so I could have 4 Raymans if I really wanted, or play the game with just Glowboxes. And I tried that grab on ledge mechanic with them, and I ended up with this. Hey, you like green Teensy? Well, now we have 8 of them. Alright, I got my Teensies all stacked up and ready. Let's go! I guess I softlocked the game. Okay, maybe don't do that. Rayman Origins is just pure fun, and more people should definitely play this game. And of course, as soon as I say that, I know there's gonna be that one person that's gonna say, you don't actually need to play Rayman Origins, because Rayman Legends includes most of the levels from Origins. And I'm gonna reply back with, oh, I'm sorry, what was that you just said there? I didn't quite hear you the first time. Could you repeat that for me? Seriously, I hate when people do this. Every time when someone wants to talk about something good about Origins, there's always gonna be someone that's gonna come up and say play Legends instead. Like as if Origins isn't worth playing. Because both of these games are so similar, it feels like they're constantly against each other, simply because Legends has Origins content. It's like telling people to play Kirby Superstar instead of playing Kirby's Dream Land. Yeah, Superstar has levels from Dreamland, but it's still missing a bit of content that isn't in Superstar. Like this shoot 'em up boss, and a hard mode that has brand new enemies, and they're a lot more aggressive. Heck, there's some enemies that only appeared in Dreamland. Or at Mount DDD, you gotta go through mini sections and do rematches with the bosses before fighting King DDD. And not to mention in Superstar, the copy abilities are overpowered, so only half of the stuff is here. And yeah, Dreamland is still a short game even with hard mode, and it doesn't have as much value as the other games in the series, but I don't see a reason why people shouldn't play it, or act like there's no reason to go back to it. My point is, just because Legends includes Origins content, that doesn't mean Origins isn't relevant. Like, bro, let people play this game. Even Ubisoft seems to treat Legends like it's the only good thing coming out of Rayman. Like when Rayman crossovers to another game, most of our references is from the UbiArt games, but it's mostly leans towards Legends. And even when there is references to Origins, it's like a small amount and I feel like barely anyone notices it. Or for merchandising, there's like these crappy t-shirts and these figurines. They don't even say they're from the Rayman series, they just say they're from Rayman Legends. Like this figurine of Rayman with an Electoon says it's from Rayman Legends, despite the fact that Electoons don't appear in Legends. Or the Rayman board game, which I feel like everyone has forgotten at this point, has different pledges you can take in the Kickstarter, one of them being the Origins pledge and the Legends pledge. Like, ah, that's cute, I see what you did there, but I have one question though, where's the Origins part? Out of all the Rayman games, I feel like Origins gets the least amount of representation. Like, I'm getting tired of Legends at this point, and I don't like playing Origins levels in Legends. It just doesn't feel right to me. For one, they nerfed the difficulty, like in Tricky Temple 2 for example, has a lot of spike traps in the ceiling, so you have to rely on using short hops, and it's kind of fun. Now in Rayman Legends, they pretty much remove all the spike traps, and you don't even need to use short hops. Also, they skip like most of the good levels from Origins, and for some reason, for some enemies, they have some small design changes, and for the bosses, I didn't think they translated too well into Legends art style. Actually, now that I think of it, it doesn't seem like it makes much sense why this is even here. Like, all the levels are out of order. Like, the mosquito levels that takes you to the next world doesn't really make sense to be here, because you're not really going to the next world. And I know it wouldn't really have much sense to have a nymph to be here, because you already start with all the powers. But what bugs me is that there are technically levels that they would appear in, but they just skip them. In the Mama of All Nightmares, the nymph doesn't even appear when you defeat the boss, and Legends just act like it's perfectly normal. And I think the fact that Legend has a bunch of Origins levels kind of makes Legends feels less original. And yeah, you could say Legends has much better movement than Origins, and I can see why people would prefer it, though I personally think it's too good, if that makes any sense. Like, there's actually a way you can give yourself more airtime by holding the jump button and attack every second. I don't like this because it makes the platforming more easy than it already is. I mean, you can't really do anything game-breaking with it, but it kind of makes me lose interest in it pretty quickly, since you can kind of just jump over a bunch of stuff. I do like to have good movement in a game, but I don't want to feel like I can just fly through everything. Which, for Rayman Origins case, I think the controls are just the right balance. Attacking in the air does halt your momentum, but I don't really mind that. I mostly use it for certain situations, like trying to grab this coin surrounded by spikes. I would use the air attack just to have enough air time to land on ground. And if you don't like that it halts your momentum, then just don't attack in the air then. And technically, there is a way you can attack in the air without losing your momentum. If you do a spin attack, and when you're in the animation, attack again and jump, you'll do some sort of long jump attack. I don't know, I think it's just more fun to experiment with the moveset, and just see which of these moves works best. Now, I don't want to talk too much about Legends, because I do want to do a video on it, but one last thing I will say, 100% Legends just isn't fun. I feel like the game was fine until you have to grind for lums, and the best way to get lums is to do daily and weekly challenges, and I think it takes like about 2 months to get 1,000,000 lums, but since most of the versions don't have online support anymore, it's no longer to fully 100% this game. I mean, trying to 100% Origins does get dull after a while, but at least it's doable, and I don't have to do any of the online stuff. Again, you don't really have to do the trophies or medals. Heck, the PS3, Vita, and 360 port doesn't even have an achievement for the LUM medals. And you know what? I kinda respect that. I feel like games these days are crazy with achievements. Like at this point, I'd just be happy to beat a game. It's pretty much the reason why I mostly buy indie games on Switch, because there's probably gonna be some dumb achievements like do no damage on every single level or speedrun the game or crap like that. This kind of stuff should just be your own achievement. Rayman Origins achievements, on the other hand, is pretty much just play the game. It's nothing super crazy or distracting. It's just play the game however you like. I actually don't even mind the PC version not having achievements, because most of these you can pretty much get by just 100%ing the game regularly. Now don't get the wrong idea, I do like Legends, but I prefer Origins so much more. It just feels more like a grand adventure, while Legends just feels like a big DLC pack. Heck, at this point, I don't see why they couldn't just put Rayman Origins and Legends in one package. They both use the same engine, and it could run on pretty much every modern device imaginable. And since they're both 2D games, I don't see how disc or cartridge space would be a problem. And guess what? You wanna know what's a real kick in the knees? It actually exists. Yep, they actually did made an Origins and Legends pack for PS3, Vita, and 360. And no, this is not just a fancy case. It's both of the games on a single disc. And it only released in Europe. So unfortunately, this isn't really much more than just a neat collector's item. I think Origins is due for a re-release on modern platforms. The closest this game has gotten any sort of re-release was on Xbox One. And as far as I know, it's just a reprint of the 360 version. Well, thankfully, this game does seem to be well preserved on PC, as it's on GOG and Steam. And the best part is that you don't need to use Ubisoft Connect. Alright, I'm gonna wrap this up. Rayman Origins was something I really needed after those Rabid Party games. This game is what got me to appreciate 2D games, and it's the best game to just goof around with your friends. And if it weren't for Rayman Origins, I probably would have stopped caring about Rayman a long time ago. Oh, and don't play the 3DS version, that one sucks. I can't tell whether if I think it's funny that a bad version of this game exists, or be impressed that the 3DS can actually run this game. And it's compressed as all hell.